the trident, the bow and arrow, the axe, the great battle in which Ganesh lost his tusk. We find these symbols. We find the tusk.
That's supposed to happen?
Dunno.
You lie to my face.
Cards on the table. I need your help. And if you want the tusk, you need mine.
Guess a limpet can't change his spots.
You know nothing about me.
Another casualty of war.
Don't!
Prior to the release of Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, Naughty Dog and Sony did a commendable job of preparing us emotionally to say goodbye to Nathan Drake and company. It was a brilliant send-off and my favorite game of 2016. 1 year later, and now we have Uncharted Lost Legacy. Like a wonderful after-dinner mint, Lost Legacy proves to be a brief but triumphant dip back into the gorgeous world of Uncharted. A return that could have felt underwhelming or stunted instead adds another example of Naughty Dog's uncanny ability to fuse character, gameplay, and unparalleled visuals to create some of the industry's best games. Lost Legacy is a standalone title starring the wonderful Chloe Frazer and Nadine Ross, a primary antagonist from The Thief's End. It sees this unlikely duo hunting down the tusk of Ganesh, a long-lost relic from an equally long-lost Indian civilization. One might think this classic setup would get old, but Naughty Dog deftly weaves these two characters into a relationship that works so surprisingly well, we may have thought we'd seen these two together before. The plot structure drops the player in the middle of their plan as well, revealing bits and pieces of how the whole adventure was started. However, the best part of Lost Legacy is witnessing Chloe and Nadine's relationship grow over the course of the storyline, getting us those said pieces and putting them together a backstory. While one character makes a fun cameo in the last quarter of the game, the strength of the story is definitely sourced within the back and forth dynamic of its stars. As always, Naughty Dog matches the quality of their writing and voice acting with an uncanny knack for animation. There isn't another game that skirts this close to perfection when it comes to delivering constantly astonishing facial animations. Every bit of underlying emotional subtlety the human face conveys seems to be captured here.
You know, a Hoysala poet once wrote of a young king who showed mercy and thus ended our rituals. But the old kings, they understood that progress demands sacrifice.
Is that what you tell your men?
All right.
None of this, of course, is old news. Naughty Dog has been creating hyper-realistic characters for years now, but somehow it just never ceases to amaze. And its ability to sell those characters as more than just video game action heroes should never go unnoticed. Naughty Dog's propensity for lifelike animation is matched in equal measure by their ability to create vivid worlds full of sweeping vistas and intense colors. There's something special about standing atop an ancient ruin, poking out above a misty jungle canopy, or discovering a massive cliff carving of an elephant covered in moss and spitting waterfalls pouring from cracks in its deteriorating surface. Every frame is filled with some massive, all-encompassing scene that makes the world seem so fantastical and larger than life, but still grounded in some form of realism. Uncharted never gets enough credit for creating a specific atmosphere through incredible graphical fidelity and pointed, purposeful art direction. Now, despite this, Lost Legacy goes for smaller scope this time around. Instead of the usual globetrotting, we find our lovable rogue treasure hunter and mercenary commander in the deep, lush canopy of the Indian jungle. For the majority of the game's plot, the player is given a large open map filled with points of interest and given a jeep to explore it. The seamless controls from Chloe to her jeep keeps the exploration and action in a constant balance with smooth transitions. Even some of the areas are built so that upon a rushed exit, the player is forced to leap down from above into the Jeep and drive away into the jungle. Moments like this may be small in the scheme of things, but they lend a veneer of realism and action that add to the Uncharted series' classic Hollywood veneer. It's fun. Not to mention the constantly quibbling and witty banter that's had between Chloe and Nadine the entire time. Another welcome element borrowed from Uncharted 4 is the open approach the player has toward combat encounters. Instead of fighting a seemingly never-ending drip feed of goons, Chloe's able to use long grass to approach undetected. And if skilled enough, a player can take down an entire group of enemies without a single shot being fired. If things do go awry, the combat is among the best in the series. With quick snap to cover and a smooth camera, combat is fluid, fun, and fast. It's also very forgiving. If you're looking for a challenging shooter, this is not it. Uncharted has always excelled at making the player feel like a Hollywood action star, and that means the player gets to kick some ass. Challenge is found in Lost Legacy's brilliant puzzles. Created within these beautifully decrepit ancient ruins, the puzzles hit that balance between being difficult and accessible. When I would be stumped, it wouldn't take long before that refreshing aha moment would just wash through my mind. Naughty Dog does a good job of cropping in contextual hints through dialogue, as well as helping the player along with their stuff. Perhaps Lost Legacy's biggest strength, however, is its gameplay balance between all of these disparate sections of gameplay. The pacing between these gameplay moments is delivered in flawless portions that never had me wishing it would be over soon, and instead looking on to what was around the corner. The climactic final 30 to 40 minutes could get a little frustrating, including one of the seemingly pervasive issues that the series has had for a long time, which is a lack of a decent villain. I don't ever remember the guy's name, and anyone who has played any Uncharted game could probably guess as to what the villains are going to be all about. They're obsessed with recovering the artifact because he can use it to continue his violent war. And it's always that same thing. I mean, seemingly every Uncharted game falls back on villains like warlords and mercenary captains whose ruthlessness knows no bounds and whose only driving motivation is to continue to fund their ruthlessness. It was disappointing to see the same trend pop up again. It's easy to let go of, though, when your protagonists are so full of life and personality. And when the Lost Legacy came to a close, the story had been tied up in a nice little bow. No cliffhangers, no surprises. Uncharted Lost Legacy is a self-contained addition to the franchise, which gives me hope that there could be more one-off tales like this. And if this game is selling at $40, I would welcome as many as Sony and Naughty Dog care to make, because I trust in their passion for this franchise. Though it's more likely we'll see the next Uncharted from a different developer, which would mark quite an interesting day for both the franchise and its fans. But Uncharted Lost Legacy is ultimately proving to be the complete opposite of its namesake, as its combination of fantastic writing, beautiful visuals, and balanced gameplay created a truly memorable experience.